The NBA has a super stacked, like my hats, schedule tonight where every single team is playing. So we're going to talk about the best games tonight, what to look for, some talking points as well. Make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the Basketball Bulletin if you guys are new for more content. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. First thing I got to say is that we actually got a report that Giannis will not be playing tonight. And, definitely unfortunate. Would have liked to have seen him out there. But I got to say, the team needs him. They are 1-5 going up against the undefeated Cavs. Okay, so here's the deal. The Cavs are going to eventually lose a game. I just don't know if it's tonight without Giannis, right? I just think that that's probably the case, or it's not tonight without Giannis there. So that's the thing about that game. I'm not really too interested in it personally, but just because I expect the Bucks to go down 1-6. But what I will say is that it is kind of hard to beat a team pretty much consecutively like that. So we'll see what happens. All right. Golden State, Washington, nothing really happening here. But I will say that the undertone for this game, because I don't believe Steph is back or that he's back anytime soon, is that Steph is still out. So while the team has been blistering hot for the Warriors, I mean, you just catch the wrong team on the wrong night, anything can happen, right? I'm not expecting a loss there, but I will say that that is an interesting subplot there. Speaking of subplots, the Lakers 4-2 versus Detroit. Detroit has had a really, really, really tough schedule. One of the most tough schedules to start the season, I think. And they are definitely pretty feisty, as my man Trevor likes to say a good bit here on the channel. They are 2-5 currently, not a team that's going to be winning. They are capturing the flag this offseason. Hopefully, they're in the chase for him anyway, or a few other guys. It's a pretty good draft. Anyway, the Lakers, as shown by last game and as shown by last season, have a nasty habit of playing down to competition and or getting to the point where they feel really confident and comfortable with a big lead and just petering it away. They don't care. They just stop playing. They stop trying. They lose focus. And they have, like I said earlier, been doing this for the last couple of years. And it's unfortunate that they did the same thing against Toronto, and that turned into a way closer game than it needed to be. So if the Lakers don't come out and continue to have the type of effort that they would need for an entire game, I do think Detroit can make it pretty tough for them. And also, another little subplot for this is that the Lakers don't particularly play great against somebody that's watched them. This is my own personal opinion. I don't have numbers for this, just my own personal opinion, against the younger, more athletic teams. I think that because the Lakers lack a lot of perimeter athleticism with their backcourt, they just struggle with these types of teams. And then, their main star is 40 years old. LeBron's own motor can wane because he's 40 years old, which I understand. They struggle with these younger, more athletic teams that are bouncy, going to run up and down. They struggle with those teams. Boston and Atlanta is a fun one. I do think that one could be an interesting game, but I expect Boston to win it, obviously. But if they get the right Atlanta night, like I mentioned earlier, then maybe things get interesting. So the most interesting game I'm seeing right now, I'm going to just kind of blitz over Memphis, Brooklyn. I don't really care much about that game, although I will say that Brooklyn's backcourt has been tremendous. A few of their guys have been interesting, and Ben is scared to shoot the ball, but it's weird because he's doing everything else fine. He's just not scoring or shooting, which is funny because that was the knock on Ben before he got injured anyway, as bro doesn't look at the basket. Like back in his Philadelphia days, all-star days, I mean, he would give you 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 points, but somehow just wasn't looking to score when you needed him to. It's way worse now. I think he's averaging like 5 points. Anyway, Sac in Miami is a fun game, though. So we have a situation here with these guys where the Kings have gotten off to they're at 500. I think they would have expected to get off to a better start than that. They had a few rough games to start the season. They lost a game to the Lakers that I felt like watching that game, the Lakers deserved to lose that game until LeBron went freaking Super Saiyan blue. I was going to say God mode. I guess that's better. Until LeBron went crazy to start that fourth quarter. That was the game where he had 16 points in 3 minutes, and he basically snatched victory from the jaws of defeat, because I don't think they were winning that game, to be honest. And this is coming as a fan of the team. I don't think they were going to win. But nonetheless, the Kings, they're expecting to be a playoff team, and I think they'll be much better on. The Heat, they're an interesting one because they're kind of just doing what they always do. So I think this is a team or a match of teams that are, I don't want to say equivalent. I think the Kings are just a bit better here. They've got more top-end talent, in my opinion. But that Miami system seems to churn, and guys do what they do. Bam, I think, is having a really good season last time I checked. So I think that's an interesting game. New York still trying to get off the snide here a little bit, 3-2 up against Houston. Houston's pretty feisty, so that'll be a fun game to see. We have Charlotte and Minnesota, the battle of the young guards. I don't believe that LaMelo is out of this game, so the battle of the young guards is going to be a fun one to watch. With Minnesota, I actually wanted to go to Minnesota's box because so they have a couple of fun things with the Minnesota's box right now. So first and foremost, where do I pull this up at? Oh, there it was. It was just right there. So I guess I'll just do this, right? I'll just do this, whatever. That does not work. I think, did it say Hornets trail by 62? My God. Is that what it said a second ago? This is what I wanted to see. So the output from them is kind of crazy. So we've got Ant putting up 28 points per game, and Julius is leading this team in assists at 4.8. That's a really, really interesting dichotomy for this team. And the fact that we have Ant here gunning like a madman. Last I checked, I think Ant was putting up 12 or 13 threes a game while shooting 40%. I don't expect him to stay there if it's that volume at that percentage. My God, man. But he has gotten off to a great three-point shooting start here. And it's interesting because the team would have struggled without him putting up those shots. I mean, this is still going to be the case. The Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert front court lacks spacing, so people will just pack the paint. And I've talked about previously how that creates a problem for Anthony Edwards and his inability to get to the rim as a result of them clogging the paint so much. And so what he's done is he's just turned those down sometimes and he's still getting to the rim, but he's turned those into open threes because that's what they're giving him also, because they'd much rather him take that three than get to the rim, obviously. So they're giving it to him, and he has taken all of them. I don't see him turning those down. So it's been pretty interesting. On the topic of the Hornets, I don't think this is the year that they are suddenly a good team, but I think they're really close to fun. They may actually, with how the West is, East is, they may actually be a team that is currently going to make their way into like a play-in spot. And maybe over the next year or two, if they can get good health out of LaMelo and good continued growth out of their young guys like Brandon Miller and so on, they probably wind up being a good playoff team. I think they're still a year or two away from that, but I do think that they're starting to show signs of life. And LaMelo giving you 30 points per game with 6 assists is pretty awesome. He is definitely carrying his weight. So anyway, I do expect this to be a tough match, but I expect the Timberwolves to walk away with this one, if for no other reason than they've got the best player in this entire match. And I don't think it's particularly close despite the numbers. All right, Orlando and OKC. I've got to say it's unfortunate. Orlando definitely expected them to, if they were healthy, be one of the better teams. Now, I expect them to still be a playoff team, just again, East competition, things like that. But they are at a point now where they're 3-4. They got a losing record, but they lost basically their best player. I guess you could argue whether it's him or France. Who do you think it is? Post down below. I think it's Banchero, though. But nonetheless, they lost their best player, in my opinion. And that's unfortunate for them because they started off really hot. I think he put up a 50-point game, and then the next game was hurt, unfortunately. So he gave you all he had for one night, gave you that win, but unfortunate that he wasn't able to sustain and went down. And yeah, man, that's very unfortunate. But OKC should win this game. With Banchero, they probably still win it anyway, to be honest. But I think that's an interesting game to keep an eye on. And at the end of this, if it wasn't clear, we will also recap these and just kind of throw out a few names for games that I thought were pretty interesting. Pelicans and Portland, I personally am not all that interested in that. I am very interested in the Dallas versus Indiana matchup. I think that could be a really fun game. Hopefully, Indiana is able to rebound and become who they were last year. Last time I looked at the numbers, their pace was low, their offense was low, and that's just not them. They need to be flying up and down like they were last year and putting up a lot of points like they were last year, and then you'll see them, because they're trying to win games without doing that, and I just don't think it's working. Denver, Toronto. Toronto could be a trap game if their guys have a good game. I think that Toronto's probably better than they get credit for being. And Denver is kind of in a weird spot at 500 with Russ not being all that great. I'm actually curious about Russ's numbers now. Last time I looked at him, he was shooting about 11%. I obviously didn't expect that to stick because, oh my God, if that sticks somehow, that's crazy, right? But where's Denver at? I got to pull up the teams. I'll just go to the teams. But like last time I checked, that was about the case, and they had they were 2 games below 500, I think it was, and it just wasn't working. So let's pull up their stats here. Denver. All right. So here we go. I want to see Russ. How's Russ looking? Efficiency. I know it's not going to be great, but tell me it's better than 11. It's 23. Oh, 23, 21, 67. Oof. Still -7 with him on the court. 2 turnovers to 4.5 assists. Blech. He's giving them 2 steals. So his main value for them is probably on the defensive side of the court right now, because he's also almost averaging a block. Yeah, but these numbers are like they've ticked up a little bit, but they're still what I saw. There's no way he goes from 45 to 23. That doesn't make any sense. that doesn't make any sense from the field, not even from 3-point percentage. That doesn't make any sense. I don't expect that to be the case. But regardless, Denver, I don't really know, man. I think that they may have lost too many pieces, but hopefully they can rebound. I expect them to rebound into being maybe a 5-6 seed, something like that. That may be generous, to be honest. I don't know, but I expect that. All right, so Philadelphia Phoenix would have been probably the best game the entire night if, Philly actually had guys playing, but they don't. So is what it is. But there is that subplot for the Embiid stuff that came out recently, but he's not playing regardless. Actually, was PG? I think PG actually is making his debut for this game, right? I think they said PG was making his debut for this game. Is it this game or the? Okay, well, he's on the graphic, so I'd assume. Excuse me. I'd assume it's this game because he's got the double LA games as well. Those are coming up soon. So I think it's this game, and then he'll go to the Clippers the next game, and then LA Lakers the following game. So, okay, well, it's going to be a more interesting game now that they've got somebody other than Maxey to put up shots. So that'll be a fun game, I think. But I do expect Phoenix to win. You know what? I'm actually going to go against Phoenix in this one. Why? Because I'm thinking maybe it's time for Philadelphia, with one of their stars at least coming back, to start finally getting going. But I think this is PG's season debut. He may wind up being rusty for this game, so there's that. But we'll see what happens. Last game, Wemby. Clippers started off pretty good, and since then have not been all that good. I want to check the stats for them as well, because last time I looked at the Clippers stats, I hella just spit. Last time I looked at the Clippers stats, they had some pretty good production from a few guys, Harden, Powell, and Zubac specifically. 21, 8, and 11. So that seems to be about what Harden is now. I had speculated that if they were going to get off to a good start to start the season, and he did it for a couple of games, but he needed to be closer to like 25 and 11 or 12, something like that. But it seems like point guard Harden is just who he is now. He's not going to get up the same number of shots or free throws or anything like that. I mean, his shots have gone up. He's just not hitting. So he is getting the shots up. He's at 18. And 20. Ooh, he's getting the shots up. 18 attempts was the highest number of attempts he's had since 1920. Yeah, basically since he left Houston, because he played 8 games in Houston and then transitioned into being a point guard more. That's the most amount of shot attempts he's put up in that entire span. So basically over the last 4 years, he's just not hitting them. He's at 36% on the field. I mean, for his career, it looks like he's about 43 or so percent, but this is still a decent dip. 3-pointers, he's putting up 9 per game, 9.3, which is, again, the highest number since he was in Houston that same year, where he put up, how many points he put up this year? 35. I was like, this dude is shooting a lot. He put up 35. So he should be higher than this. But again, the 3-point percentage is at 26. He's getting 7 free throws, which is more along the lines of the norm for his last handful of years here. Yeah, he's just not hitting his shots. One of the big issues with Harden is that his first step isn't there anymore. And also I think he's obviously getting less free throws than he did in his prime. That's obvious. But I think the first step really does hamper his own production offensively. But he plays more like he's like your second best guy. I think Harden probably, with the production he's giving you, if he's actually hitting his shots anyway, I think he could be the second best guy on a championship team. What do you think about that? 23, 8, and 11. The problem with Harden also is that he doesn't perform in the playoffs. So maybe you do need one more star in the middle there. But again, those numbers aren't anything crazy, especially in today's NBA. So maybe not. Maybe he's more third guy. I guess it just depends. He's like 2 or 3. It oscillates between night to night. Anyway, I wanted to also check out Zubac. He was putting up something crazy, like 20 and 12 or something. And I wanted to see Powell as well. 17 and 13. So those are coming back down to earth a little bit, but that's still really great production. And 25 for Powell. Is he still shooting a blistering percentage? 51 and 42. So yeah, he's still on fire. So that could be a fun game, but they're coming back down. I expect the Spurs to win that game because Wemby and the Spurs have had a few really good games, I think, in a row here. All right, so to recap, my favorite games going on tonight, there's a few that I would have liked, like the Milwaukee Cleveland. Lakers Detroit is one that I'm interested in. I personally really like I mentioned earlier, Sacramento and Miami. I would have liked Memphis, Brooklyn. I don't think I do like that one all too much. I do like New York, Houston. I like Charlotte, Minnesota. And I also like Indiana, Dallas. And I think that was the last one for me. Indiana, Dallas is the last one. Okay. I'll also say Philadelphia, Phoenix. Those are the ones I'm really looking for being games today. So what do you guys think? Post down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video on the Basketball Bulletin. And if you did, check out the video that Trevor and I did earlier today, where we cover some of the interesting news in the NBA. You can find it right there, right now on the screen.